Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Good to see you guys. Man, it has been a long week. If y'all give me a couple seconds here, get everything set up, make sure we're good to go. As you guys know, I like to start just a couple of minutes early and make sure the audio sounds good, video sounds good. If you guys don't mind, give me a thumbs up and we'll do some hellos and some introductions. Audio looks good on my end. How are we doing, guys? Give me a thumbs up. Man, we got a ton of folks in here. We got a bunch of members in. We got Dewey Did It, Josh DeFranco, TCB, Joe, Trooper. Good to see you guys, man. Awesome. AV On Point, Road Glide Rider. Thank you, sir. Indy, Kenneth Anderson, Jeffrey Carr. That's a good tip, sir. Steve, hello. Thanks for joining. We got some guys in here from the UK. Where's our guys from the land down under? We got to have some Oz guys in here. Speaking of guys, Guy, you leaving?
I'm leaving.
Happy Memorial Day. Have a good weekend. All right. Finally got this place shut down and the lights off and anyway, let's see who else. Fred Flint, thanks for joining us, Fred. Nick Hildebride is with us, guys. Thanks for joining in. Mike Kremen sounds great. Thank you. Richard Palancio, I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you, sir. Middle Georgia, good man. Larry S is with us. So, guys, let's see. We got a couple of minutes before it officially starts. But go ahead and dive in since all of you are going. Let me get everything set up, chat window, and all that. How's everybody's week been? It has been, man, the past few weeks. Of course, we had the deal. Let's see where everybody's at. Okay. We had Pete and then me and everything else, the shop and all that deal. And we've been trying to play catch up. I can't thank all you guys got bikes in here, engines in here, and stuff for your patience and things. I appreciate it very much. So we've been going nonstop. Excuse me. So the reason I decided to pop up this live Q&A today is you guys leave comments like crazy, and I can't thank you enough for that. It's wonderful. It helps me make these videos better. When I see the questions, a lot of times that gives me content and it tells me that what I need to explain further or explain in more detail. So your comments mean the world to me. And I try, guys, to get to everyone. I promise, I really do. But between, every social media account that's out there, but, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and, all of that stuff, it's so hard to get to it. So I hope none of you guys feel left out or anything like that. That's not my intent. I want to try to help everybody as much as I can. Thanks for the kind words, guys, everybody. Maniac, thank you. One more, Brando, thank you. Nick, thank you very much, commenting on Jim's there. Ken, thank you. You guys are awesome. Portugal, that's another place I've never been, but it's on the bucket list, sure. So we've started this series, and I'd mentioned that I hide Easter eggs. I'll make these statements and then I back it up with content. If you guys remember, if you followed the channel long enough, if we go back over a year when I started that twin cam versus M8 series. And my thought over a year ago when I started that was to lead us way up to this point where we're truly comparing every aspect of the engine, not only the good, but the bad. The processes to rebuild, looking for the patterns and things. And so when I started this engine teardown series, it's kind of all piling up and come together. And then when this series is over, we're going to have build videos, one after another, doing builds where you guys have had a chance to see all of these teardowns. And I'm hoping that so many of these things will start to make sense, if you will. The changes we need to make, the improvements we need to make, the parts we're installing, and why. This stuff costs a lot of money. And one of my biggest goals for this channel is to help people understand, cut through the marketing stuff, and let's get down to brass tacks and understand why some of these parts are necessary or recommended, if you will. Road Glide Rider mentions your channel helps explain the rumors spread on the internet about twin cam and M8 motors. So yes. So hola, Senor Richardson. Está bien? So the reason I decided to go live today, man, after doing this series, the comments are piling up and piling up. And I thought the best way to address them, because I started seeing a lot of questions, the same questions over and over again. So I thought this would be a fantastic way to spend, let's spend a little bit of time addressing some of the comments that I've seen as a result of all these teardown videos. And then I figure for the last, maybe 20, 30 minutes, we'll talk, questions, and we'll just open discussion if that's okay with you guys. So if you guys don't mind on your questions, just because I can't keep up with all of them, if we could hold off on your questions for just a little bit, let me address the questions left in the comments first, and then let's open it up to your questions that, let's say, open topic on anything motorcycle. So if you guys don't mind that, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to help you guys as much as I can. So one of the big first questions that I got was, how does crankcase pressure or how does sumping cause elevated crankcase pressure? And then the inverse of that, which was, how does elevated crankcase pressure create sumping? All right, so let me, this is a little more, requires a little more in-depth explanation than I can really give on a video. So first off, let me explain some basics. All right, so as what you've seen in all these videos, what I'm trying to prove to everyone is that sumping is caused by a lot of different issues. A lot of different problems can create it, and it's not unique to Harley-Davidson engines. Sumping can occur, or excessive oil buildup in a sump can occur in V8 engines, like Chevys and things like that. So it's nothing new. It's a common thing, right? So, but the big question, let's get back to that for a second. The big question is, how does crankcase pressure create sumping? All right. So let's think in terms first of how a piston ring is made. If you guys look back on some older videos, I showed some detailed pictures of piston rings, and as a common rule, the pistons, the way that they're made, you'll see typically on your top compression ring, you'll have a bevel on the top on the inside of the ring. All right, and then typically your second compression ring will either be, you can have, an edge on it with a bevel. It could have an interior bevel on the inside of the ring and all that stuff. Well, the idea with the design of a piston ring, it's not the spring tension of the ring itself that seals in the combustion pressure. It's the combustion pressure that seals the ring. So think of that in reverse. So the reason you typically have that bevel on the top ring is because your combustion pressure on top of the piston comes around the inside of the piston, hits the bevel on that ring, and then opens that ring up. And that is what seals the ring. And then what little bit bleeds by that gets to the second ring, and it kind of does this thing. And then you have the ring pack, the oil ring pack that's below that, where you'll have a rail, and then you have the corrugated ring underneath. Now, the purpose of that is actually to collect the oil and spread it evenly, if you will, across the surface of the cylinder. Now, if you've ever been in engine building before, you know what happens if you turn that compression ring, that top compression ring, upside down. Combustion pressure then will not seal that ring against the cylinder. All right? That allows that combustion pressure to get past the ring and pressurize the crankcase. And then you're blowing oil everywhere, out top end vents, everything else. If you've ever put a ring in upside down, that's what happens. Now that you have that visual, let's understand what crankcase pressure does. All right. The overall goal, and the reason on modern engines, and when I say modern, guys, I'm going back to antique engines. Really, I mean, the last engine that I can think of that was produced that vented the crankcase to atmosphere was a flathead Ford in the late 30s. Right. So even through the 40s and 50s, 60s, it was discovered that if you could reduce crankcase pressure as much as possible, then that would do several things. Number one, it helps the piston rings seal better. All right. Number two, it helps valve stem seals seal better. All right. Number three, it prevents gaskets from leaking. That's a big one. Now, a lot of times you'll hear people having gasket issues. They'll blow gaskets left and right, rocker box gaskets, cylinder base gaskets, and all that, and they're replacing gaskets like crazy. A lot of times the cause for that is increased crankcase pressure. So if you've got an engine that's blowing gaskets everywhere, check cylinder pressure and leak down. It can tell you how healthy the rings are. So what happens to it, how can that create something? So let's think of how the system works overall, right? You need that, as I say, negative pressure as much as you can possibly have, right? Once that pressure begins to build on the bottom, then you lose that ring seal on the top end, okay? Once you lose the ring seal, then the entire oiling system begins to operate less efficient. All right, then a little bit of oil starts to back up in there. When it does, then the crank is splashing around in the oil. It aerates the oil. When you have aerated oil, it will then cause the pump to cavitate, can lose suction, lose pressure. Then that starves oil to the top end. Now, the other thing that can happen there is once you get a little bit of oil in the bottom of that crankcase, the oil is mixing with the air. Okay, and it creates a very dense oil-saturated air molecule. And that's the reason why your crank breathers, you see that oil coming through your intake and your air cleaner, and it puddles on the bottom. It's not that there's oil necessarily puddling in there. On a molecular level, that oil saturates the air, and that oil saturation gets sucked up in through the crank breather system. It goes up through the pushrod tubes and then through the rocker box and then works its way through the intake, okay? Then you have that very heavy air there. And when you combine all of those things and that pressure differentials, and I don't want to get too crazy complicated, guys, but when you combine all of those things and those excessive pressures and all that in that crankcase, then there's no other choice but for that oil to begin to build up. The pump is less efficient and all of that type of thing. So I hope that clears that one up. The other, I had several comments where people would check their oil, particularly on Softails. I gotta digress for a minute, guys. I'm talking a little slower, and I know I'm moving a little slower than normal because I'm just flat out exhausted. We have just been running like crazy, so bear with me. So the Softails, let me give you a little history on that. We talk about Softails, and I had several questions on Softails, several questions on Sportsters, and several questions on Evos. And there's a fella named Dustin I've known for a long time. He actually put a joke up on TikTok, and he showed a TikTok video of oil just absolutely blowing everywhere out of his Softail oil bag. And it was an Evo, of course. It's blowing oil everywhere, pouring oil out of the oil tank. And of course, I started. He sent me a message and said, "Hey, Kevin, read the comments on this." And of course, it was comments from, you could pretty much guarantee that each person that was leaving comments on an M8, it was, "Oh my God, you got a sumping problem. Oh my God, you need a cam plate." Remember, this is an Evo, so you need a cam plate, you need an oil pump, you need all these different things to solve that problem. And we know better, and it created a chuckle for us. But what I realized is you guys need more information to understand what's going on there. So yes, we did chuckle a bit, but now it's time to give you the real deal. So it doesn't matter. You can go back, way back. Any bike that has the oil tank higher than the oil pump, all right? So twin cam Softails, Evos, shovel heads, Sportsters, it doesn't matter. If those engines sit for a long time, they all sump because it's gravity, right? The oil tank is higher than the oil pump. So over time, that oil that's in the tank can actually leach past the pump and begin to fill up the crankcase. So if you own a Sportster, Softail, anything like that, where your oil tank's higher, and you check your oil when the engine is cold, the oil could possibly show very low on the dipstick. And if you fill that up with oil on a cold engine and you crank that sucker up, it's now instantly overfilled because the pump's going to catch up. It's going to pull all that oil out of the crankcase, pump it back into the oil bag, and then it's going to be blowing oil everywhere. And I've seen, unfortunately, I have seen people over the years get ready to go on a first ride. Bike's been sitting for 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. They fill it up with oil. They're standing there in their riding gear and they crank it up. Next thing you know, they're just they're completely bathed in oil. So what you need to do on those bikes is you fire them up, you check them when they're hot. All right. So when you get back from your ride, check the oil then. All right. And then that'll tell you, in that way, if it sumps overnight or over several weeks or something like that, then at least the level is good. And when you have a bike that does that, if you leave the oil plug out and the oil cap and you crank it up, you can watch in the oil tank will start to fill up with oil again. So even those engines, what we call sumping, if you will. So that was another very common question that I saw repeatedly over and over and over again. The other was I see a ton of comments with people. Harley Davidsons are junk. Harley Davidsons are garbage. They, I can't believe this happened. And it sucks that it happened for everybody. Anybody that has an issue. I truly hate, yes, I earn my living fixing motorcycles, but I hate for when people have problems. I really do. We have to remember how many bikes they build. And I'm in the business of repairing motorcycles, not looking at motorcycles that are healthy. So, let's be honest, it wouldn't make a very exciting video for me to have a bike here and go, hey, this thing is great, right? That said, I'm not doing clickbait. That's why I do these videos. You seeing the teardown, it's a surprise to me sometimes, just as much as it is to you. But, we're a repair facility. You don't, other than services, and we service bikes all the time. Tires, brakes, send them out on the road. There's plenty of M8s and twin cams and Evos that are out there with 100,000 miles or more on them that have absolutely no issues. Some of them have been modified. Some of them have not. There's no necessarily a pattern to that. But we have to remember what we do is repair motorcycles. And my primary goal for this channel is to, there's some of these repairs can be very, very expensive, right? And the big question a lot of owners have is, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? And in most cases, there's nothing an owner could do differently. There's nothing you could have done to avoid it. Sometimes it just is what it is. Mechanical components break, high production engines, and so there's several variables that come into play there, right? And so the reason for the whole channel, and the reason I do a lot of these videos, is so that when you guys have a problem, you have some clues as to what the cause may be. And then when you go to your repair facility and they're telling you what's wrong with it or what they need to do, maybe that will help you understand better why it costs so much or what they need to do. And I hope that makes sense, So that's really the primary goal for all of this. And to, when you start thinking about building an engine and making a significant investment, doing, one of our Skunk Works engines or, doing a build like that, it's nice for me to be able to direct someone to a video. Let me show you this, and it will explain everything. It helps. Money's hard to make these days, guys. I work my butt off for mine. I know you do too. And if I'm going to spend money on anything, I want to try to understand as much as I can about why. And that's what I try to do with these videos. Why would you need a cam plate? No, you don't need a cam plate all the time, but when you do, this is why. No, you may not need this piece or this bolt-on part. You may not have to have this billet clutch basket or this motor sprocket or, all these components. You don't have to have them. But here's why you may want them. And that's kind of the overall idea. So those are kind of the typically some more questions that I get. And the other common one was, are all M8s like this? Or all twin cams like this? What's the best year model to buy? I get those questions like crazy. What's the best one? And I've seen cycles in this thing. So one of the interesting things as the new bikes have gotten more expensive, all right, the bikes have gotten more expensive, I see more and more twin cams coming out of barns, twin cams that have been stored for years and years. And I see a lot of new riders buying those old twin cams. And a lot of those new riders are not familiar with, say, the cam chain tensioner issues that we all knew about from the first twin cam and forward, right? So they're just not aware. And it's almost like the Evo has become the new shovel head, and the shovel head has become the pan head, right? The generation changes. And so I've even seen a resurgence in cam chain tensioners. And so it's, twin cam's got to have cam chain tensioners, and people are freaking out. But, I'll share a funny statistic with you. Believe it or not, the average ownership of a motorcycle is only about 5 years. The average mileage is only 3,500 miles a year. And being that most people are interested in the hobby for only 5 years, a lot of times they've bought this twin cam, they park it in the garage, they haven't ridden the thing forever. You can get a 2005, 6, 7 twin cam, 2010. These things may have less than 20,000 miles on them. So when the owner gets it, and then he suddenly finds out about the cam chain tensioners. Well, sumping is kind of the same thing. Yes, there have been inherent problems and issues with sumping in the twin cam. Sumping in the M8. But the exact same sumping problems occurred in 2007 when the new crankshaft came out. The factory 4 3/8 crank came out. And, some of them were coming out of the factory 10, 12 thousandths plus run out on them. And they were sumping like crazy from the very beginning. So, again, this isn't anything new. But what we have to remember over and over, and what I've tried to demonstrate with this, is over and over, guys, just because it's sumping doesn't mean it's a cam plate. It doesn't mean it's an oil pump. It doesn't mean all these things. There's so many causes for it, and I hope you guys understand that. And that's a big part of these teardown videos. So I've been rambling for a little bit. I'm going to have a little bit of a sip here. And if you guys will bear with me, I'm going to scroll back and look at a few questions here that I can address really quick, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So let's say it's 5:17. Let's say it may be around 5:30 or so. We open it up to your questions, and we'll do the speed marathon. And I will tell you guys a couple of exciting things. It is Memorial Day weekend, and God bless the troops, man. Ain't no doubt about it. All those that sacrificed to get us where we're at. You may have seen my post about the guys in Florida there. And, our history. I'm a patriot. I'm a true patriot. And so love this country thanks to all of you that served and remembering all of those that paid the ultimate price. Thank you very much. That being said, I'm going to enjoy this weekend with my family. We're going to do a 3-day weekend this weekend. And I'm going to pick up a new puppy. My daughter's 16 years old. She's been wanting a puppy for years and years and years. And I have told her when I felt you're responsible enough to help me take care of it, then we'll get a puppy. And so we are going to pick up a Rhodesian Ridgeback this weekend. So we'll be bringing a new little one home. So I'm going to spend the weekend with my family, and that's why we're going to cut it off at 6 o'clock, guys. So let's get started. Let me see what questions I can find so far. Hello from Indianapolis, Indiana. Indy Piper, thank you for joining us, sir. Steve, greetings from Illinois. I believe I got a phone call or an email from Steve. I'll probably get to that first and next. Thank you, sir. Mike Cremens, hello from Texas, DFW area. The last time I was in that area, I say DFW. That was in I haven't been to DFW area in quite a long time, actually. I do love it out there. Texas. Benny from Holland, thumbs up. Thank you, sir. Big smiley face. New Zealand. Matowicks from New Zealand. Good to see you, sir. I haven't been to New Zealand. Have been to Oz, but New Zealand would be a neat place to go. I had a few friends and people that I know from New Zealand have told me an interesting fact, and I'm wondering if you could confirm it. I've been told that on the island of New Zealand, there are no poisonous animals or no venomous animals in New Zealand. I'm wondering if you can answer that for me. Anyway, let's get to some questions, guys. Mike, good to see you. Michael Jones. Bob Stubbs, good to see you, sir. Santa Fe, man, you guys from everywhere. This is awesome. John, hey Kevin, mine really surprised me on the cam part. Now I had some ticking up top, but never dreamed that cam would look like that. John's one of our members. He was one of the teardowns that we did, and yes, sir, John, you were right on the brink of that lifter exploding. It was. Sometimes there are some surprises in here. Let's see. A lot of compliments from you guys. Thank you, Carlos, Steve, George. George Kelly mentions gravity. Yes, it's gravity. Um, uh, your comments and your kind words. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it a lot. It means the world to me. Thank you. Brian asks, "Have I ever had to repair a stripped throttle backing plate bolt? Any suggestions? Throttle backing plate bolt." I'm not following you on that one, Brian. Maybe if you leave another comment, if you're throttle backing plate, yeah, hit me up on that one. I'm not sure exactly what you. Let's see. Everybody loving the teardown marathon. That's Michael there. His was actually one of the engines we tore down. Thank you for jumping in, sir. Stephen Richardson, with modern synthetic oils, any reason to do the oil tank bag cleaning on the old bikes? I feel like I'm wasting my time on the older bikes. Oil tank bag cleaning. Okay, and you may be talking about the flush sort of thing. And that was a thing that was done for a long time on the Softails. Because when you do an oil change on a Softail, you actually leave a lot of oil behind. And I would say it's based. That's based on how often you change your oil and how nasty the oil is when you drain it out. If you're doing short-term oil changes, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. Just my take on it. Maniac McGee, I've got an 883 Sportster 2009. I beat the out of it, and that bike still runs great. Yes, sir, you can beat the heck out of a Sportster, man. Those things will take a beating, so glad you had great luck with it. Let's see what else we got. Bear with me, guys. Let's see. Let's see how much. Okay. Let's see. This is a good question. How much metal on an engine drain plug magnet before concern? That's kind of a hard question to answer. I would almost say it's more about what is left behind than how much. If it's that's a tough question to answer. I tend to say, if it's a little bit of powdery type substance, then it's not that big of a deal. But if it's big chunks, then it's something to worry about. But there again, you could have had big chunks that got ground down into small chunks and make powder. So that's if I saw a lot of stuff on a drain plug, I would have to do a leak down cylinder pressure test, bore scope cylinders, do something to make sure it's not an issue. So, Rod Taylor, hi from Tennessee, would busted out the skunk. Thank you, Ron, one of our members. Joe asks, another one of our members, I'd like to see a video about compression ratio, why and how to select one, and its effect on power and on engine reliability, longevity. Joe, that's a fantastic question, actually. There's a general rule of thumb on engine design with compression ratio relative to fuel octane availability. That could make for a very long video, but since you asked it here, I'll give you some quick snippets. General rule of thumb, 10.5 to 1 compression ratio works out really well for 93 octane. All right. If the octane gets lower, compression ratio gets higher. Typically what happens is you have to retard ignition timing and adjust fuel enough to compensate for any potential spark knock issues. But the other thing that has an effect on that is intake close of the cam. And that's why cam selection and compression ratio and where you live, how you ride, your altitude, your weight, the weight of the bike, all of those things begin to matter when you're designing an engine for somebody. I can tell you that Evos, as a general rule, are not as quite compression friendly as a twin cam. I would say the same thing about an M8. You can put a little more compression in an M8 than you could on a twin cam. Running 10.8 compression with 93 octane is not that big of a deal because the M8 head design, a 4-valve head design, is a lot more efficient. So that kind of gives you an average rule. But I think that's a very good video topic, and I'll jump into that. Tim Stanley, another member. Thanks for the series. Just ordered the parts from a 110 to 117 build. Fighting 4C cams from Seattle. Hope those are good cams. No one makes the best cam, sir. It's depending on you, where you live, how you ride, the rest of the engine, compression ratio, all those various different things. So, however, I did the video on how to choose the perfect cam. Maybe take a look at that one. But hopefully, either you gave it a lot of thought and felt that was right for you. It's not for me to say whether it's good or bad. It's whether or not it's right. Let's see what else we got. Often should you have front motor mount shakes like crazy or pull a clutch in? Oh, good grief, guys. Let's see. Trying to pick everything. They're coming like crazy. You guys have got lots of questions. Let me hit some oddball ones. Ones that pop up that are I would say relatively common. What upgrade, if any, should I be looking at when I buy a brand new M8? It says 144 Maniac. I'm sure you mean 114 by that. What upgrade should you be looking at? A lot of that depends on what you're going to be using the bike for. You may not need any upgrades at all. You can ride that old girl stock. Sometimes I tell people they want a bike that's completely different than everybody else's. They want something really unique, really special. A lot of times I make the joke with leave it completely stock. You might be the most unique guy in your riding club. But anyway, that being said, man, it depends on what you're used for the bike. I mean, I could give you a long list of stuff that could make that bike unbelievable and bulletproof. Depends on how you're going to use it, right? Again, where you live, how you ride. It could be a suspension upgrade would be the best thing for you. Depending on your weight, where you ride, mountainous area, things like that. Suspension could be the best way to go. If you want more power, maybe it's just doing a cam and that's enough for you. There's so many different things, but anytime somebody brings me a new bike, I look at several things right off the bat, and I kind of do it in a matter of priority. And let's look at the top 4 things that I like to look at. If I'm designing a bike for someone and building from scratch, or if they come to me with a brand new bike and say, what do I do first? We look at fit, form, function, safety. Those are the first things, all right? Does the bike fit you well? Do you feel confident with your feet down? Are you in a comfortable handlebar position? Your shoulders don't hurt, shoulders won't burn. So get the fit correct first. And that's also going to apply all the rest of them, the functionality and the safety. If you feel confident on the bike, you're going to be safer and all. So think about it in that order, and that might give you a different perspective. Let's see. I see a lot of questions. Jeff mentioned from Jacksonville, Florida. I see a lot of questions, people asking, give opinion on the Trask vented transmission covers and vented dipsticks and vented all this stuff. There's my opinion is you buy it if you need it, I guess, right? If you're having, say, a mild sumping issue due to excessive crankcase pressure, the economical way to fix that, and it is truly a fix, is to vent the crankcase, to vent the transmission, to vent all that. But I guess when you have sumping issues or overpressurization, be it in the primary, be it in the transmission, there could be a cause for that. The cause needs to be investigated first, okay? And sometimes the cause is more expensive or it's not as severe. That maybe it could be remedied with some of these other components. Like I had a gentleman email me earlier today that has had continuous fluid transfer problems. And he has bought, and he listed all the things that he's bought. He bought this, invented this, and he had the dealer change the main seal, the engine main seal into the primary. They changed the main drive gear seal in the transmission. He bought a clutch push rod. He bought all of these different things, and in my response to him was, check the vent tube on your transmission cover. And of course, when he did, he found that a grub worm had gotten into that vent tube, nested, and had clogged that. That's been a common problem ever since they put a vent hose on top of a transmission for decades. And, dirt daubers and wasp and things get up there and build nests. The first thing you check is you pull that hose and it's clogged, you stick it back on there. So if I have to say, if someone had thought outside the box and had seen that, it could have potentially saved that man thousands of dollars. So try to look for the cause first. I'm not going to say those products are invalid, don't buy them, because they do work. They are valid solutions depending on what the problem is. So that's what we have to get down to. And that's, again, the purpose of this whole engine teardown series, right? So it could be leak down, it could be ring seal, it could be bad crank, it could be a lot of different things, right? And sometimes, let's face it, if you have a bit of a sumping issue that, it's because of a crooked crank, but it's not in the budget to spend several $1,000s to replace that crank and correct it, or it's not in the budget to spend $3,000 on a new cam plate and oil pump. Sometimes that dipstick can be just enough to help you and get more life out of the bike if you don't have the money to spend on the big stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, they're viable solutions, and I hope that's a thumbs up for everybody and you understand where I'm coming from. Anyway, excuse me. Let's see. Fuel lightning. Okay, here we go. Jim Vella. Hi. He says, hi, Kevin. Hello, sir. Isaac Temple, good evening. Thank you for joining us, sir. Let's see. Nick Hildebride, 2017 Road King, 25,000 miles. Any typical things, items to look at when doing the service? Condition of the oil. Look for any leaks. Check things. I would say also when you're riding, check oil when the bike's hot. When you get home, check it maybe once or twice during a ride. Check it when it's cold. If you see any big swings in oil levels, could be a sign of sumping issues. That would be about it. Check your brakes, check your tire pressures, all that fun stuff. Todd, doing a video on carburetors, different carbs and tuning. Man, that's a good idea. I need to dive into some old stuff. Actually, I've got a very, very sweet knucklehead sitting back here. It's an all original bike that we're going to be doing a restoration on. And then I have a flathead Cervicar that was actually a meter made carb. It's a 40, I think it's a 41 or 42 Cervicar that belonged to the Miami-Dade Police Department. And it was an old meter made Cervicar. So we're going to be doing a restoration on that. Those might make for some cool videos. Thumbs up if you think you guys would like that. Let's see. Joe asks, is 117 cubic inch also a sweet spot for M8 builds, as you mentioned, for twin cams? That's a good question, Joe. A 117 is just, it really is a great build. It depends on what people are wanting for power output. The 124s and the 128s are also very, very reliable builds for the M8. Incredibly reliable. And provided the ring pack on the pistons, good thick ring pack, stuff like that, you don't have any issues. But anyway, that can be very, very reliable builds. The 117, is it a sweet spot? It's hard to say. The M8 is a bit more efficient. It's a 4-valve head. You can run slightly leaner fuel mixtures on these things. You can be more aggressive with ignition timing. They're more compression friendly. So I would build a 117 twin cam and a 124 or 128 M8 and feel equally good about the reliability and longevity of both because of primarily those two factors, right? So that's a great question, Joe. Thank you. Let's see. Denver, Colorado, holiday. Mike Todd checking in from Denver, Colorado. Thank you, sir. Living the dream. Good to see you. Happy holidays. Bob Stubbs mentions, one of our members, my opinion, suspension should be the first upgrade anyone does. It's such a big bang for the buck. And that's a good point, Bob. It is. Depends on how you ride and where you ride, man. Let's see. Jim Vella asks, Jim, I hope I pronounced that right. When is the lifter sizing tool going to be available for purchase? It's coming very, very soon. I'm going to say within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. If you guys leave enough comments on this and give me a thumbs up, I may go ahead and open this up on the website for pre-orders. So what's going on here, guys, is we've went back to the drawing board on lifters. And instead of designing a lifter from a cost perspective back, we've decided to go from the top down, meaning what's the best lifter slash tappet we can produce, the best of the best that we can come up with, and then let's see how much it's going to cost. And what we've done as part of that, we've developed a whole fit kit system where you can, buy a fit kit, test fit your case, and then order lifters and be able to mix and match the lifters and all that. So if I'm guessing we would probably be able to do something in the next 3 to 4 weeks, but with the response I've gotten so far, with the limited number of people that know about our new tappets, and then the precision fit kit that you can use on an exchange basis, basically you can buy a fit kit, fit your lifter bores, write down the sizes, mix and match the sizes, send us the fit kit back. We'll credit the price of the fit kit towards your set of lifters. So it's a way for you do-it-yourselfers to get a super precision measurement on your lifter bore clearances without having to buy a tool that you can't return, without having to buy bore mics and things like that that are ridiculously expensive to use once. So that's kind of the idea with the whole program. If I get enough comments and thumbs up on this, I will go ahead and release that part on the Baxter's Garage website and allow you guys to pre-order. Understand it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks before I would be able to ship anything, but the response has been incredible already. So if you guys give me a thumbs up and say go for it, then I'll put it at baxtersgarage.com and you guys can pre-order, and then we'll figure out how to get it out of there from there. So great question. Thanks for asking. Sam, God bless America. Woohoo, America. Good man, Sam. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Let me scroll back a little bit here, guys. Bear with me. It's 5:37. We're making good time. We're not doing too bad. Let's see. A sizing tool. Just bought a 2005 wide glide with 4,000 miles. DNA. Original tires. No cracks. Still okay. Man, I wouldn't do that. I would put, if a tire has been stored, not mounted, in perfect ideal conditions, climate controlled, I would limit that to 5 years to install on a bike. But man, that tire is old, buddy. I get it's only 4,000 miles. I get you don't see the cracks, but you don't see what's going on the inside. The driver, man, your life on 2 wheels versus the price of 2 tires. Man, I would buy the tires. I really would. Just my opinion. Let's see. Hello from Muskegon, Michigan, Sam. Good to see you, sir. Right on, Mike. Sam, Cam. Oh, Sam, keep up, awesome. Sam, you're. Oh my, yes, Nuck, Luke Flupper. And it's a beautiful motorcycle. It's in that knucklehead that's back there. It's in wonderful condition. It's amazing. It just, the thing hasn't ran in 50 years. So we're going to put that on the rack and get that old girl living again. And then we're going to take it out and we're going to ride it. The other one that I've got, you've probably seen the pictures, is that 48 Indian with 134 original miles on it. So those are the kind of projects we do after we get all this major stuff done, right? And try to get caught back up with everything. So yeah, we can add that. And Craig Went asks, can you put the rest, the correct way to install the lifters in an M8? You put to rest the correct way to install lifters in an M8. Yes, we're going to do that. I'm actually going to, when I get ready to actually start shipping these new tappets, we're going to do an exceptionally detailed video on how to fit them, why the fitment is important, how to adjust push rods, how to adjust the lifters, how to pump up the lifters, lash, everything. It's going to be down to the detail so that everybody gets it spot on, because these lifters are a miraculous thing. And so we're going to be doing a video on that, Craig. Let's see. Michael's giving thumbs up like crazy. Pre-order, go for it, Nick Hildebride. Thank you, Motoboy. Thumbs up. Can't wait to hear the lifter. Stephen with a skunk. Thank you, Stephen, one of our members. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Interested in purchasing the tool on the fit kit from Jim. Thank you, sir. JB Customs. Currently holding off on completing a build for those lifters. Very good lifter kit. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, guys, here's what I'm going to do. this is a holiday weekend, but at some point this weekend at baxtersgarage.com, I'm going to flip those lifters and be active. I've put a lot of information on there about how they're, you know what? I'll tell you. Let's see, Rube Sanchez. Do you guys want to hear about the new lifters? I'll tell you, I don't want to take up a lot of your time on stuff like this, but if you want to hear, I'll tell you what we've done on these things. It's pretty amazing. Rube Sanchez, hello, Kevin. Are the lifters that come in the SNS cam chest kit as good as the fueling race lifters? Rube, I know you want an answer to that question, my friend, but I can't answer it. It's each has their features, their benefits, where they sourced them, that sort of thing. Man, I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't really pick one over the other, if you will. You know. Again, let me remind you guys on the channel here. I'm not going to bash anybody's products. I will say this: if there is a product that I know that is a bad choice, that you shouldn't do it, that in my opinion, I will never mention it. All right. But you'll also notice in all my videos, I say, this is my opinion from experience, and then I give you the why it's my opinion. But then I also differentiate, these are the facts. And I like to keep the two separate. Okay. And I think that's important to do in this industry. If someone has an opinion, there needs to be a reason why they have that opinion. And that's what I try to do in the videos, is back up my opinion with observation, testing, and demonstration. If I don't say anything, that means I'm not certain, I don't have an opinion. And I hope all you guys can respect that and understand what I'm coming from on that. So anyway, here's the deal on the Tappets. So I'm not embarrassed by it. Denise Hughes, thumbs up. Denise is from Gems. She's joined us. I'm going to go ahead. You guys want it. So here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and put them up on the website and let you pre-order. And you'll just have to ask for your patience to be able to ship them to you. But it shouldn't be too long. So here's the skinny. We start from the top and we work our way down. We try to figure out the best possible way that a Tappet can be made. All right. And we start looking into things like the material that's used. Gems Machining is making these lifters for me. I'm not going to hide it, and I'm not ashamed of it. You would be amazed at the caliber of company, machinists, equipment, R&D, all the things that these guys at Gems do. The tools, I'm going to make the joke, their tools are phenomenal. They put a tremendous amount of R&D into their tools. There's no question. But you guys have known me long enough. I will not pair up with a company and endorse it unless I believe in it 100%. You would be amazed at the technology this company has. The tools is a cakewalk. It's nothing, you know, when you start looking at the overall perspective of everything that they do, right? So I'm not ashamed to tell you, Gems is making they're making these lifters. And so to give you an idea of some of the things that goes on, there are a lot of different ways you can manufacture components. Components can be machined, they can be ground. Now, when you start getting into precision, what's called, you know, ID, OD grinding, things like that, when you get to the point of grinding certain materials, that's how you can maintain ultra precision, is with grinding, not necessarily by machining. And I'll explain why that is. If we have any machinists in here, I would love to hear you chime in on this, because I'd like to have somebody back me up on this. So anytime you machine something, you have bits and you have tool holders and you have all these things. You can make them as rigid and as strong as possible, but you always have a little bit of deflection. You always have, you know, the tools move, they change shape and stuff like that. So grinding is one of the ways that you get the most precision end results on parts. So these lifters, they are precision ground to within a tenth of a thousandth, within a tenth. Okay, so take a tape measure and you figure a 1/16 of an inch. Well, take that tape measure and divide it into 10,000 slices, a 1 inch into 10,000 slices. That's the accuracy that it's ground to. The inner bore of the lifter is hand ground and honed. It's like fixture ground, so that it's like perfect, and then honed to perfection. So we're dealing with an interior tolerance with a piston of basically you're at 1.5 tenths of a thousandths. Ultra precise. Then there's a couple of design elements that there's a port actually on the lifter that will, and I'm going to get in this on the video. One of the common things that I've seen on nearly all of the M8s that have sumped has been accelerated camshaft wear and accelerated lifter wear on the rollers. So what we've done on this lifter is then take and put an oil port so that it sprays oil directly onto the bearing of the lifter and the roller itself. Now that is something that Gems had incorporated in their existing lifter line, a design element and patent that they have. So we carried that over into ours and then started coming up with this absolutely, perfect lifter. Now, what's also happening, the roller is ultra heavy duty, the bearing there, ultra heavy duty, solid axle, all that type of thing, the best of the best that we could possibly think of to put into this thing. Now, the idea with the fit kit is that it's an actual lifter body, okay? Precision ground, made on exactly the same line, out of the exact same material, exactly the same way that the lifter itself is. It just doesn't have all of the mechanics on the inside of it. It has the roller and everything else. So you're using an actual lifter. So the way this deal works, you can order, if you're a shop, you can just order the fit kits and keep them as a tool. But if you're an individual doing your own cam install, you call and order a fit kit. And it's going to have a standard size, a 1.5, a 5, and maybe a half thou oversized lifter in this kit. And the idea, if you saw in the last video we did, the idea is you take this fit kit and you clean out all the lifter bores, make sure there's no oil in there. And there's a term in the machinist world called slip fit no shake. And TS Racing. TS Racing. Thank you, sir, for chiming in. I'm sorry to back off everybody else's comments, but I was waiting for a machinist to pop in here. TS Racing, centerless grinding is the term you're looking for, Kevin. And yes, to hold a tenth of a thousandths tolerance is very common. With centerless grinding, that's correct. To hold a tenth of a thou on machining is difficult to do. That's a whole different animal. And then he adds, nice to team up with Gems. We've been using Hydrosolids for years with 0 failures. That's awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you, TS, for jumping in and commenting on that. So anyway, so you order the fit kit, and and I'm sure TS will jump in with me on this. If you have a very precise fitment, a 1 to 1.5 thousandths clearance is what's termed as a slip fit no shake. All right, so if the bore is clean and the lifter is clean, you can take our fit kit and you can take the lifters and drop them into the bore. And you want them to settle under their own weight and fall on top of the cam. Now, without any, pressing them, you want to slip fit, you want to feel it with no shake. That will yield us around a 1 to 1.5 thousandths clearance at room temperature on that lifter to bore. And you can fit it with the actual one. Now, here's the best part. Not all lifter bores wear the same. You can mix and match our lifter sizes. So if you have one that's 1 thou over, one that's half a thou over, one that's standard, one that's 1.5, you can then, when you return the fit kit to us, you take and you write down those sizes, or you call us, you return it to us. We will apply the cost of the fit kit to the purchase of a set of lifters, and you can mix and match the sizes to get the fit perfect. Now, give me some thumbs up and some comments on this, guys. To me, I think that's just absolutely knock it out of the park. Awesome. Be able to mix and match sizes and all that type of stuff. And the other thing, we're going to incorporate this. If you have a really damaged lifter bore, then, Gems for a long time now has actually had a reamer that is made well enough that produces the correct finish. You can actually use a hand drill and ream your lifter bores and go as big as 10 thousandths oversized. So if you have a damaged lifter bore, we will still have a solution for that. We'll supply the Gems reamer and the new version of the 10 thousandths oversized lifter, and they're calling that the case saver, if you will. So I'm hoping you guys will. man, I just think the program is a knock out of the park, and just a great way to do it. And then of course we're going to go through the deal of how to pump up a lifter, how to install, we want everybody to understand a lifter is absolutely perfect. Because I'm going to be honest, man, I would venture to say that 90% of the lifter failures that I've seen has been as a result of something else. It's actually relatively rare that I see a lifter failure. It could be, spring rates, this, that, and there's various different causes. But anyway, I think this would be a great, great program. So if you guys love it, then I'm going to make them active this weekend, and that'll be the fit kit and how all that works. If you and JB mentions here, you said it perfectly, Kevin. The lifters are the bloodline to the top of the engine. That's absolutely correct. So, Maniac asked a question. This is valid. What is the advantage of having a very tight lifter fit? That's a great question. All right, Maniac, let me answer this one for you. The only thing, okay, so basically you have the oil that comes up through the cam plate, goes into the lifter bores. There's an interior ridge. I'm sorry I don't have one setting. Actually, I do have a tappet sitting here. Bear with me just a second. It's not one of ours, but it is a tappet that I just had sitting here because I look at stuff all the time. So I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna cover up a little bit of this. So you see this area right here in this oil port, Maniac. I'm gonna help you out here. The lifter travels up and down in the case. Oil is coming in through the case from the cam plate, and the oil is picked up in this area right here, and that oil goes through that port right there. And when it does, that's what pumps the lifter up and takes up the slack in the valve train between the push rod and the rocker arm. Okay? So there's that portion of it. The only thing that maintains a seal between the lifter and the bore that ensures that you get enough pressure and enough volume is huge, volume to the top end of the engine through the push rod to the rocker arm, spraying down on the valve stem to lubricate the valve stem. The only thing that provides the seal is the oil within the cavity that the lifter's sitting in. Okay? Well, on the other side of that cavity, you also have the piston oilers. So the oil comes up through, goes into the bore, pumps up the lifters. Once it fills that cavity and pressurizes, it then goes out the piston oiler. All right. The more clearance you have in that area, same as a main bearing, a rod bearing, and all that, the more clearance you have, the more oil can escape from around the lifter. That can do several things. That excessive oil that escapes from around the lifter can also create a sumping problem if it's bad enough. You build up excess oil in the crankcase because it just drains down. The other, you're not building up enough pressure to maintain the pump on the lifter, which allows lash in the valve train and you get a noisy top end. All right. The other thing is you're actually starving oil to the top end. So the more precisely we can fit that lifter to the case, the more we're ensuring proper oil flow to the top end, proper oil flow to the piston oilers. We're reducing the amount of oil that can be bled by, dropped into the crankcase, and potentially contribute to a sumping problem. So, hope that answers that question. That's why it matters. Excuse me. So, Michael, the precision that goes into your product line is stifling. Thank you very much, sir. Sometimes I choke on it myself. Had a half dozen set of lifters in my twin cam. Great to see the flexibility lift kit. Too much tolerance, the oil will leak, the pump, and not pump the lifter up. Mick the dog, thank you very much. What motors will your tappet apply to? Currently, we are releasing them for M8 and twin cam. If there were enough of a demand for Evo, we might do Evos as well. But for now, it's twin cam and M8. Gary D, good explanation. Thank you very much, sir. All right, guys, let's see. It's 5:54. And I want to thank all of you for listening to my spiel on the tappets. I got to admit, I'm incredibly excited for these things, and I know this was kind of a Q&A thing, but thanks for being patient with me and listening about these things, guys. I'm really excited about it. So by the end of the weekend, I'm going to say by Sunday afternoon, I will have them active on the website. If you would like to place an order for the fit kit and the tappets themselves, then go ahead and place that order, and know I will fill that order as soon as we have them, enough of them to start shipping them out. There's been an enormous amount of testing done. There's been, I mean, R&D, failure testing, everything else you could possibly imagine. Testing the things at RPM limits that a twin cam or an M8 would never possibly see, at valve seat pressures you would never possibly see. So, way above and beyond. So, anyway, they're ready to go. We just got to get them made quick enough. So, I will do that. All right. Let's see. Let me get any other questions. What motors? We got that. We got that. Rube Sanchez, thumbs up. Thank you, sir. Steve, you're welcome. Welcome very much. All right, guys. We know how this goes. John Etchels, thank you for your dedication. Thank you, sir. Happy Memorial Day to you as well. And Mick the dog, if you need them, they're probably priceless. When you do my Evo for when you do my Springer. Okay, guys. I'm going to say we have 5 minutes to go. This is the speed round. We end our live feeds with a speed round every time. It's where I don't mention your name, but I answer your question as fast as you can possibly send them. It can be anything motorcycle or automotive related. Let me get a sip of my beverage. So, before we do it, Tim Stanley, very happy to have joined this group. Grateful for its existence. Tim, thank you for your kind words, sir. It's greatly appreciated, and thanks for being a member and supporting the channel. All right, guys. I'm not going to read the questions. We're just going to answer them. So, let's start the speed round. All right. Who's got questions? Speed round for the next 5 minutes. Maniac, favorite Harley engine. Hard question to answer. They each had their specific pros and cons. It's amazing to me how an Evo, how bad they can be and still run. Twin cams made great power. They're in between. M8s make incredible power. Hard question to answer. Best 10 to 12 mini apes. Nick, that depends on you, how you fit on the bike. I would say it's hard to buy bars. Also, be careful how you buy bars. Some people will measure from the bottom of the bar at the riser to the top of the bar. Some measure from the bottom of the bar to the middle of the grip. Some will measure from the top of the bar to the middle of the grip. Some center line. So 10 to 12, do you need factory cables or not? Extended cables, etc. Caution how you buy them. I would suggest take a look at one particular website, Brian Clock's website, his Ergo bars. They're the only people that I know that sell bars based off of ranges from the factory measurements. In other words, they'll give you a factory bar size. They say it's 2 inch more pullback, 1 inch more rise, etc. Take a look at that. It's a great way to buy bars. I don't know of anybody else that's doing it that way. Ship to Australia? Yes, sir. But as you know, it's expensive to ship to Australia. If you have anything you'd like to order, I'd like to ask you, give me a chance. I will at least get you a shipping quote on it, and we'll do our best. Do you like Chevy 327? Yes, I like 327s. Man, throw that sucker in a Camaro and we will have a good time. I'm a big 427 fan too, but I like 327s. Can't beat it. Your lifter kit being very high demand. Create our own fit kit with your mentioned brand. Can we create our own fit kit? Let's wait for the fit kit. Thanks for asking. Does oil degrade sitting in engine for months? Yes, it can. It depends on your environment. It depends on how bad it is, your moisture, your humidity in that area. One of the biggest things, most people make a mistake of cranking an engine and only letting it run 5 or 10 minutes, then shutting it off. Crank it for 5 or 10 minutes, let it run, and you shut it off, and they'll do this for months. That's actually one of the worst things you can do. Number one, you are blasting an engine with cranking fuel, washing the cylinder walls down. That cranking fuel is saturating the oil. You do it over and over and over again. It's not a good thing. The other thing is you're heating the engine up just enough that when it starts cooling back down, it can begin to condensate and the oil can become acidic and all these other things that can happen. If you're going to crank an engine, I don't care if it's your motorcycle, your lawnmower, your hot rod car, whatever, you're going to crank it, be sure to drive it long enough to get it up at operating temperature so that all of those vapors and condensation inside the engine will evaporate through the crankcase breather system. Best advice that I could possibly give. Normal oil pressure. Oh, wait, let me back up. Man, guys. Okay, a couple more minutes. Forster video coming. Yes, bear with me. We've got a lot of content coming. Normal oil pressure at operating temp on a 103. You want to see roughly 32 psi above 2000 RPM. Below 2000 RPM at idle, for example, remember, largely a Harley engine is more volume than pressure based. And you want to keep a balance on your oiling system so you don't overtax it and create a sumping issue through piston oilers and all these other things. So 12 to 15 psi at idle is fine. Above 2000 RPM, normal operating temps, 30 to 34 psi, you're typically fine. No issue. Randy, the best compensator, hard for me to pick a best. It's use, how you use it, things like that. But bear with me, guys. Michael, how do I feel about TRAS turbocharging? It depends on the end user, my friend. We do a lot of pro chargers as well. It depends on how the bike's going to be used, stored, ECM tuning, environment, things like that. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. It's a great thing if it's budget, the engine's built for it, and all those sort of things. TRAS been doing that stuff. Nick's been doing that stuff for a very long time with great results. Not a bad thing at all. Depends on how you're going to use it. Just bought my first '07 Road King, still relevant. Crank issues. I'm sorry to say, Nate, yes, '07 was a very, very bad year for crankshafts. It doesn't mean yours is bad, and I don't want to scare you to death. Look at videos I've done in the past about sumping and things like that. The clues. Does it feel like it drops an anchor? Do your oil levels change? All that stuff. Just because you bought it don't mean it's bad. But yes, sir, '07 unfortunately was... it was not uncommon for there to be a crank issue in an '07. Don't let that scare you, though. There were a lot of great things about '07s, too. One-piece throttle bodies, Delphi fuel injection. There were good things about them. Diesel in a motorcycle ever? Nick, I'm going to say no. I would not. I did a video a while back on all about engine oils. This is a highly debatable topic. I know it's a highly debatable topic, and I'm fine with that. So I'm going to say this. My reason is opinion and experience based. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make my position on that. The reason the reason diesel oils are an attractive ideas because they're kind of inexpensive, and they also have other ratings that are good for actual movements, actual loads. They tend to have high zinc contents, high phosphorus contents. CF ratings is a good thing in diesel oil, like Rotella, for example, for actual loads, inline crankshafts that see a lot of shifting, high torque environment. What I'm not a big fan about diesel oil is the high detergent content that they have. Sometimes that high detergent content can actually remove all carbon from rings, all carbon from top of pistons, and some carbon is good. It's not all bad. Can fill the fire ring between the head gasket and the cylinder wall, things like that. So that's the reason I'm not a big fan of diesel oil. I'm going to say that's 75% opinion, 25% fact. I encourage you to do your research and reading. Joe asked, best indicator of leaking piston oiler, piston cooling jet. I would say one good indication is if you're looking at your oil pressure at idle and you're hearing a tapping noise at normal operating condition, okay, normal operating, and you hear a tapping condition at idle that goes away once the oil pressure gets above 15 to 20 psi. In other words, if that piston jet's staying open all the time, and it's allowing the lifter potentially to bleed down over a long idle period. And then when you get above that 15 psi or so, then it opens back up. That could be an indication of a leaking oiler. Of course, then there's sumping, but it would have to be bad to create sumping. A hard question to answer, man. Sorry about that. That's a great question. I'm going to answer this one, guys, and I think I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to do two more. What repairs do you dislike doing? Infamous Joni. That's a great question. I'm going to have to think about that for a second. What repairs do I dislike doing? I love fixing motorcycles, regardless of what the repair is. I would say this. I dislike doing a repair on a motorcycle where the same repair has been done recently. Does that make sense? In other words, I hate to see people spend money twice. I hate to see people spend money unnecessarily. So the ones I dislike doing the most are, I don't know if I'm explaining that well. when I have someone come in that's had a problem, they've, somewhere, place, whatever the case may be, and I have to do a repair again, or repair something more correctly, or whatever. Those are the ones I don't like doing, because I know that poor soul that's in my shop spending money has had to spend money twice, and I hate when that happens for. So, as far as the motorcycle itself, I'll fix anything. I like fixing anything on motorcycles and making people. That's a great question, man. Thanks for asking. Now, all right, let's see who else we got. Jim Vella, great question. I'm gonna take 2 more questions, guys, and then I'm gonna go enjoy my family, and I hope you understand that. Jim asks. I'm gonna back up. Okay, Steven asks, best clutch pack for my 98 Springer to order, extra plate, Energy One Barnett. She's only a bolt and can't Evo. All right, so I'm a 98 Spring. Of course, you're working with a spline shaft there. Steven, I would take a serious look at the stuff from American Prime. If you've got any questions specifically, you can call Ben at American Prime. They're out in California, so be aware of the time zone. But I've been using American Prime, that clutch design and stuff like that. I've been using it for years and years. I've never had a failure. They're great clutches. So maybe consider that one as an option for you. Energy One makes a good clutch. So does Barnett. The one thing that I prefer, regardless of who makes it, I prefer a diaphragm spring over coil springs anytime they can be had. It's a very nice clutch pull. So my personal preference would be one with a diaphragm spring. Okay. Anyway, Jim says, 09 Road King has the Man of War compensator making a rattle type noise. Crank run out was 10 thou. Have I heard of this before? That is a wonderful question, Jim. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. I don't spend a lot of time on internet forums and things like that, but I have gotten a few questions from people that have installed the Man of War motor sprocket, and they say the Man of War motor sprocket is making noise. All right. This is not opinion, guys. This, I told you, I separate opinion and fact. So I'll say this. If you put a brand new Man of War motor sprocket in, the way that sprocket is made, if it's tightened down properly, and it's new, and the cushions are new, the bushing is new, and you put that thing in there, it's virtually impossible for it to make a noise. Look really closely at how it's made. Okay? There are very few, virtually no moving pieces in this thing. All right? Now, and feel free to spread this. This is, I say, somewhat common knowledge. If you do a search online and look for neutral rattle, if you look long enough, you will find a tech service bulletin that HD released back in 2011. And it's a neutral knock issue. And when you look at how the transmission is made, there were some transmissions, and it didn't affect everybody, but there were a lot of people with completely stock motorcycles that had this neutral knock. And what would happen? You pull the clutch in, the noise would get quieter. You release the clutch when it's in neutral, the noise would be loud. You put it in gear, you're riding, you don't hear it. It's a neutral knock. All right, so that was a very common problem, enough that a tech service bulletin got released about it. And in that tech bulletin, it stated, tell your customer that this is a normal condition, that it's not a mechanical issue, it's normal, okay? You've heard me say over and over, normal doesn't mean it's correct and proper. Normal doesn't mean good. It just means that it's normal. Well, sometimes normal is bad, right? So normal can be bad, or bad can be normal. It's just, we have to weigh it out. So I will say this. There were a handful of the Man of War motor sprockets that I installed that the neutral noise became obvious. Okay? And it had the same exact characteristic. In every single case, I decided to do some testing of my own, and I would pull the transmission. And I looked at the collar and the shift forks that were in there and how the dogs engaged and everything, and I found that those transmissions were worn quite a bit. I would then, if you then take that transmission, remove the stock transmission, and I did 2 different things. One, put a known good stock transmission in with very low miles, slid it into place, bolted everything together, the noise vanished. I removed that known good low mileage stock transmission, put a aftermarket transmission in and hit the button, and it did not make the noise. I removed that and I put the original transmission back in it, and the noise reappeared. So reality, what is happening here, it is a very strong, very rigid piece of equipment. It doesn't have that slop and play in it that a lot of the typical type compensators do. Okay? So if you have a transmission that's worn and right on the edge of that neutral knock and not quite there, it is possible that when you bolt the man of war in, or even a solid front sprocket, you bolt those in, suddenly they make this neutral knock noise. And unfortunately, either the solid sprocket or the man of war sprocket gets blamed for it. Now, is it creating a mechanical issue, creating anything long term? I have no reason to tell you guys that that noise is creating a mechanical issue that you should be concerned with, other than the nuisance of it. But that's my take on the neutral knock. That was an awesome, awesome question, Jim. Thanks for asking. Hope you guys like it. Steven, last question. I'm going to scroll through for a second here. Joe mentions you're making a difference. Thanks for all you do. Have a great weekend. Dog treats. You're welcome. Joe, thank you, sir. Steven asks, Trooper Spirit, thanks for an awesome Q&A, Kevin. Have a wicked weekend. Thank you, Trooper. TS Racing, thanks for joining us, sir. And the last question Steven asked is, how is my GTX coming? So I'll do this. Great channel from, hey, there's Steve from Australia. Good day, mate, from down under. Good on you, buddy. Glad you're here. The GTX, anytime I've posted automotive content, nobody really seemed interested in it. This GTX I'm building is an absolutely wonderful, incredible car. I've had to do everything you can imagine. I'll give you a clue. This car came out of a barn so bad that when I took the steering column apart, I found rat crap and leaves inside the steering column. That is insane. So anyway, this car, I'm about halfway done with restoring it, and I have been videoing and putting pictures. If you guys have any interest in seeing what I'm doing to the GTX, I'll start putting up content on that GTX if you guys would like to see it. So get some thumbs up on that. So to review real quick, guys, thank you a million for your support. Thank you to our members. Thanks for supporting the channel, sharing your likes, your comments. It means the world to me, guys. Thank you. Thanks for this new series. We're only halfway done through it. So next week when we get back, we're going to be hammering down on this series. And we've got some more Tool Tech Tuesday coming up with Gems, with the transmission, a bunch of other, man, we got all kind of stuff coming with Gems. It's awesome. I will, by the end of the weekend, I will have the new tappets and the fit kits loaded on baxtersgarage.com. We're going to phase the old Pro Twin website out and kind of move it to the new Baxter's Garage site. So you'll be able to find the new tappets on Baxter's Garage. If you want to order them, go ahead and hit it. And for everybody that places an order, then I will keep you up to speed on when everything's getting ready to come out. Guys, thanks a million. It's awesome. As always, we ran a few minutes over anyway. It's 6:15. Happy Memorial Day. Thanks to all of those in the armed forces that do what you do. We appreciate you very much. Thumbs up on the GTX. And rat crap in a Mopar. Sacrilegious. No kidding, Larry. Oh, man, this thing was covered. No joke. And I'll show it on the video. By the time I reached my hand up in the cowl, right? Because you can't, GMs and Ford stuff, you can unbolt the cowl and get into the top. Well, you can't do that on Mopar. It's welded in. So I pulled out that when I pull the heater boxes out, man, I reached up inside the cowl and started scraping crap out. Between the top of the headliner, inside the cowl, in the floorboard, the steering column, heater box, and all that stuff, I had a 5-gallon bucket. 4 gallons of rat crap and dead rats out of this car. 4 gallons of it, man. I didn't think it was possible. Inside the hood where I guess you would say the ribs, the strengthening areas that are welded in the other side of the hood, there's actually firewall insulation inside there. Those little suckers got in there. And I was trying to blow it out and get all of this rat. Man, I bathed in rat crap for 3 weeks. And everywhere I turned, there's rat crap in this. So anyway, guys, thanks a million for joining. We've had a ton of viewers on, ton of comments, and guys, I appreciate you very much. I hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Remember why we're celebrating it. Spend time with your family and your friends. And I guess over the next 2 or 3 weeks, look for some GTX videos. You guys are awesome, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. Whew. Cheers. Y'all have a good one.